been a minute. I haven't made one of my long form videos in a while. The holidays got insane. And yes, but I'm back with a week 18 review and also playoff picture kind of explanation of what's going on. Week 18 was something. Love the backup quarterbacks. But I think what week 18 really means is that the post football season depression is looming. It's close. And what do I do after February 11th? I'm probably not the first to say it, but this season the NFL has been weird, and this is probably, if not, it's probably the most QB1s I've seen go down. And I think even towards week 17, there were only 5 remaining starting AFC quarterbacks that actually started in week 1 and played all throughout week 18, which is baffling. We had the Pastronaut, we had Tommy DeVito, people switching teams. Carson Wentz played yesterday. We saw Carson Wentz again. Wild, but anyways, let's kick it off back with Mason Rudolph and the Steelers. So the Steelers, shockingly, I would say shockingly, come at me if you want to. I did not. If you would have asked me in the beginning of the year, I would not have said they were going to make the playoffs, but now have punched a ticket to the playoffs with a little bit of help from Jacksonville losing, which we'll get into in a little bit. So the Steelers won against the Lamar-less Ravens 17-10, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it was storming. It was very, very rainy that day, so the play in general was not the most impressive. I mean, Rudolph only had, I think, 151 passing yards. Half of those came from one touchdown bomb, a 71-yard passing touchdown to Deontay Johnson. It was a beautiful play. But Deontay Johnson only had 6 receptions on the day. He had about, I think, 90 yards, and 71 came from that one touchdown pass. So again, not super flashy, nothing super impressive. Without Lamar, he is the majority of their offense, Got a lot of backups in there, got a lot of backup quarterback, or a lot of backup running backs in there as well. So I think the main storyline that's coming out of this game is you have Rudolph, who has done his job. He's done the job of backup quarterback. He's gotten the wins. There's a lot of momentum with the team right now, but Pickett's healthy. I mean, he's been healthy for a couple of weeks. He's just been on the sideline because they have been rolling with the momentum. But now you're hitting the playoffs. Do you go back to who started for you at the big? I just hit Manny. Sorry, Manny. Do you go back to who started the season as your QB1, or do you stick with the backup and the momentum that's been rolling? Personally, I think stick with Rudolph. If things are going good, why change it? Why need to mix it up? Plus, Pickett has just proven that he's just not a QB1. He is not a QB1 in my eyes. His progressions, he does them very slowly. He's very inaccurate at some moments. I think that it's better that he does sit back a little bit, at least maybe the first round of the playoffs, but not up to me. It's up to Mike Tomlin. Very curious to see who he rolls with upcoming this week. Texans 23, Colts 19. Now, this game, in my opinion, was, I had the feel of a playoff game in itself already. I mean, what's better than a win and you're in besides being in the Super Bowl? Like, that's the highest stakes you can get. CJ Stroud, this is the first primetime game he had all season, and he showed out like we all expected him to without my Chris Collinsworth, CJ Stroud glazing. But what else is there to say about that kid? He's amazing. He's incredible. I mean, not only is he a clear front runner along with Puka, shout out to Puka for breaking all the rookie receiving records for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but Stroud is showing such veteran-like flashes of talent. I mean, his accuracy is comparable to Aaron Rodgers. He was able to hit Nico Collins while he was falling. There was a beautiful, I think, 75-yard touchdown pass to Nico Collins. Had a 28.4 completion percentage estimate according to Next Gen Stats, and he nailed it. Very easy touchdown pass, and it looks like they've been doing that all season, obviously. So Texans, I mean, your 2023 draft just nailed it. I haven't even talked about Will Anderson Jr. yet, but just to get someone like Stroud who was able to elevate all of the people around him, including himself. I mean, Nico Collins, he had 461 receiving yards last season. He finished the season with 1,297, 3 away from 1,300. That is an insane increase. And then you have rookie Tank Dell, obviously out with a broken fibula, I think, which sucks. I've done that. Don't do it if you can. Tank Dell, another phenomenon this season that I've loved seeing. Minshew Mania, I mean, he's also been a great storyline. Filled in after AR went down, I think in week 2 or week 3. This team has become the RPO master this season. A lot of RPOs going on in the Colts offense, but they just weren't able to do it. A lot of people will blame it on the dropped 4th and 1 pass that could have gotten them closer to scoring a touchdown and taking the lead. But I mean, put up points earlier in the game. It sucks when you blame it on one player, but it was also a bad pass by Minshew at the very end there. JT had an incredible game. 30 carries, 188 yards, and a touchdown. And he went to the locker room, I think, in either the third or early in the fourth quarter with a hurt ankle, and he was out for a couple minutes. Texans score immediately back on the field. They're like, hey, yo, JT, I don't care if you're hurt. Get back on the field. We need you now. And then he had a couple of great runs after that. So I think it was a great game overall. Very, very intense. Texans ended up taking a safety at the very end, and that's why the Colts had 19 instead of 17 with what there was remaining with about 2 minutes left. But Texans are in. Packers beat the Bears 17-9, and I think this game was a perfect kind of bow to this young Packers team season, who have never had their full squad healthy for a game, except for maybe week 1 and week 2. AJ Dillon was out of this game. Aaron Jones has been out for half of the games. Christian Watson has been in and out with a hamstring injury. I think he only played like 50% of the games. Romeo Doubs went out during this game with a chest injury. He's now considered day-to-day, so a lot of rookies were needed to step up to the plate and kind of fill in those wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 roles at some points. Jaden Reed, has just been absolutely incredible. He didn't have a touchdown this game, but he was very much an important key factor in getting the ball downfield, getting it closer into the red zone. And Dontavian Wicks, he had his first touchdown, but not just his first touchdown of his rookie season. He had 2 touchdowns, able to help the Pack get the lead. And with this win, the Packers have secured the final spot in the NFC playoff picture. They are the number 7 seed. If the Rams lost, they would have flip-flopped, and Packers would have been the 6th, but the Rams taken the 6th. Green Bay, the 7th. And so Jordan Love went 27 for 32. He had 316 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had his highest rating of the season. Now the Pack will go on to play the Cowboys this weekend, and the Cowboys are very good at home. They're very good at home, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of the Cowboys, they took down Washington 38-10, which, you just added tally to another one of the beatings of the Commanders. But hey, Commanders fans, head coach Ron Rivera was fired today, so if that's something you're looking for, maybe under new management, they'll be able to figure out how to fix this offense. Maybe Sam Howell is not the answer. Yes, he did throw the ball a lot of attempts, but that man cannot stay on his feet. He was the number 1 sacked quarterback this season. I've talked about him too much anyway. So Dak, he had 4 touchdowns, and 2 of those were to CeeDee Lamb, who he's had a masterclass of a season. That guy, he's really proved that he's slotted in definitely some of the top best wide receivers that we have in the league right now. CeeDee had 13 receptions for 98 yards, and then those 2 touchdowns. Again, he was just bad for the Commanders. Their losing streak ended up being 8 games, and that included going 0-6 since Rivera fired their defensive coordinator, and he also made himself the play caller on the defensive side, but did not work out for him anyways because he's fired now. So, and with this win, the Cowboys clinched the NFC East and look like they are the next contenders for the NFC conference with the 49ers, looking at the 1 and 2 seeds right there. Well, okay, might as well get into it. What is wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles? Why have they dropped so many games after starting off 10-1? How did they get their entire team picked apart by Tyrod Taylor, who in my opinion, that guy is inevitable. He's probably never going to retire. He is just always around. He got hurt. DeVito went in. Nah, put Tyrod back in. He ended up picking apart the Eagles D. He went 23 for 32 on passes, 297 yards, a touchdown. He did have a pick, but he helped lead the Giants to a 24-0 lead going into halftime. And at that point, during the second half, the Eagles pretty much waved their white flag. They benched Kelsey. Hurts was injured with a fractured middle finger, which looked violent. Lane Johnson also came out too. They're benching all their starters. And also bad news more for the Eagles is AJ Brown went down with an apparent knee injury. He is not completely ruled out of the upcoming game, but it is optimistic that is not anything serious and he will be able to play during the playoffs. But with Devonta Smith out and also Swift out, they had a lot of their offensive key weapons out this game, and it was very obvious that without them, this team is not at the same caliber that they were last season. But if you're looking for real tangible answers on why the Eagles have dropped so many games the past couple weeks and lost 2 teams with a losing record, including the Cardinals and the Giants, well, it's on the defensive side. Last year, the Eagles were ranked 8th in league points allowed, sitting at 20.2, and their defense ranked 4th in EPA per play. Now, this year, that same defense ranks 29th in points allowed per game, sitting at 25.1, and 30th in EPA per play. And since the Bills game, they are now 31st in EPA per play. Just looking at those numbers, that's just not good. You can't allow this many points and expect your offense to compete with that when your offensive weapons are injured. So it is not looking great for the Eagles right now, but their head coach said that they are resilient. I use that word a lot, but hey, the head coaches like to use it too. They're not going to give up. They're going to take each challenge day by day, and we shall see them next week when they face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. Saints 48 and Falcons 17. And now the reason I bring up this game is because head coach Arthur Smith had some very choice words for the Saints head coach Dennis Allen at the very end of the game. Obviously, he was very upset. If you saw the clip, I'll pull it up. I'll put it right here. But the main reason this happened was because the Falcons were already down 41-17 with just a couple of seconds left, and the Saints went into victory formation on the goal line, expected to just kneel it down. But instead, Winston handed the ball to Jamal Williams and he ran it in for a touchdown, just an added gut punch to the already beating that the Falcons were taking. And so Winston, after the game in his post-game interview, was like giggling about it and saying like, hey, don't be down 30 points anyways. And also the announcers were like, hey, try to stop us. Teach their own. Let me know what you guys think about this situation. I think, yes, it was cheap and it was maybe not sportsmanlike, but it was funny. So that's just my opinion. Arthur Smith was canned as the clock hit midnight on the East Coast on Sunday night going into Monday morning. And so they will be looking for a new head coach immediately. Arthur Smith ended his tenure in Atlanta after 3 seasons. He went 7-10 in all 3 of those seasons. So he had a record of 21-30, which you can't maintain to keep your job. So sorry, Arthur Smith, didn't play some of your players well, and we'll see you probably in not another head coaching position. Alrighty, last game I'm going to talk about today is Buffalo and Miami Sunday Night Football. Buffalo wins 21-14, and now this game was messy, to say the least. We had 5 turnovers, 2 picks from Josh Allen, 2 picks from Tua, a fumble on the Bills side, and just no one was really taking care of the ball. It was less interesting than the kind of the hype around it because it was supposed to be, are the Bills going to get in the playoffs? But with the Jaguars losing, they ended up giving the Bills a pass to the playoffs. So the Bills were secure at that point. This game was pretty much just for AFC seeding and for the AFC East. Josh Allen did have 359 yards and 2 touchdowns, but it wouldn't be a Josh Allen game unless he had interceptions. So there were two turnovers. One was a pretty sloppy one in the beginning of the game when he had an opportunity in the end zone, and that's kind of where he's very frantic and not my favorite Josh Allen that I've seen. Tua was without his second wideout and Jalen Waddle, and also Raheem Mostert was out, so it was pretty much the Chan and the Tyreek Hill show. Tyreek didn't hit it. He didn't get 2,000 yards, which is fine. He only had 82 last night and a touchdown, but he did not get the receiving yards record for the season. And overall, I don't think this game really proved anything other than Josh Allen is Josh Allen, and these coaches can't contain him, and he's going to do what he's going to do. And I think he just gets into these 13-year-old little fits and turns the ball over. And I do think he's really talented. He has the skill on the ground. He has a big arm. He's very skilled. But there's just, you can't be that reckless with the ball. I think they won this game because the Dolphins didn't have their full weapons. And I mean, there was injuries on both sides. The Bills' D is beat up, the Dolphins' D is beat up, but I don't think this game really shows us much of anything with either team. They're both going in the playoffs. So the Bills did clinch the AFC East, which is shocking because they sat at 500 through week 10, and then they turned it around and won 6 of their next 7 games. And then with the Dolphins losing, this is where kind of the playoff implications and the seeding comes in, is that they are going to have to head to Kansas City and play in -2 degrees or whatever the forecast is. Good luck. That's going to be awful. I would not survive. And the Dolphins, just like a lot of other people, have lost some key players due to the injury on their defense, but it looks like on the offensive side, Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert should be good to go. Head coach Mike McDaniel said today that he's optimistic that they'll be able to suit up for the wild card game in Kansas City this upcoming week. Reek back against Kansas City, his former team, so that's always interesting to watch. But other than that, pay attention to some of the injury reports, and let's take a look at the playoff picture.